The June 95 update, we've enhanced the system health check for SBDS. If you recall, in the past, we've offered a standard health check and an extended health check. If we can get Tom to pull up that screen for us, you'll note that on the screen it shows us 1.5 minutes for the standard health check, which has really not been changed since our last version of SBDS, but yet the extended health check has been increased to 8.5 minutes. Previously, that test routine was only 4 minutes. So let's go back to the routine to properly go through a boot-up procedure and also a system health check for SBDS. The first thing is to reboot our card each morning. Once the card's been rebooted, you'll want to go into a system health check, and you're going to select standard. Standard should be the first one you should go into. We'll get time to pull up the standard health check results for us, and you'll see on the right-hand margin where we have a pass and three sections here. And if for some reason you would have failed any one of these, the proper procedure is to back up, power down SBDS, go back, reboot it, select the miscellaneous screen, and go back into an extended health check. The extended health check is going to do a little more than the standard health check, which is why we have the increase of about 4 minutes. We've got time to pull up that screen for us for the results of the extended health check. We have a few more systems that were tested out, as you can see on the screen. Now, if you had a failure in that area, you may want to go back into the log file and take a look and see exactly what failed before you called the tech hotline. And we also have a screen to show you there. So Tom, if you can pull that up for us, you'll see on the top margin it tells us it's the instrument subsystem test results, and this has been the major addition for the extended health check. And on the right-hand margin it tells us all the routines and if they passed or failed. Now, the proper procedure here was to go through and do a standard health check. If we failed there, we want to go back, reboot the card, go through an extended health check. If you failed at that point, you're going to want to go in and call the tech hotline. And we have that number we can display for you real quick. So we'll go through, dial up 1-800-826-4694. It'll query you and it'll ask you to select option number 4 to get into SBDS hardware and software assistance. Once you make those selections, they should get you back and running on SBDS. Now, since we're talking about the PVA, we have some more things that Mark's going to bring up to us. And I'll turn it over to Mark right now.
The June 95 software has also been enhanced to include a PVA monitor temperature check. As you see on the screen there, we have two pop-ups. We have the cancel button and the calibrate button. If you choose to cancel, keep in mind that the PVA monitor, temperature monitor, is it's going to affect the analog and the digital signals that the PVA monitors, and you could get some bad information. So at this point, what we would recommend is that you choose the calibrate, and when you calibrate, and Tom, if you'll bring up the next screen, when you calibrate, the PVA is recalibrating. It'll tell you it takes approximately 1 minute, and then this message will disappear when calibration is complete. Okay, so the PVA monitor does that for you, and then it also does one other thing for you. The PVA monitor does the overheat temperature monitor, and what it's looking for is a temperature of 50 degrees centigrade or 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, one of the most important things about this is that the SBDS screen be left at the main menu. It has to be there for approximately 5 minutes. So, and that's the key for the PVA software to go in and start that temperature monitor. So if you've left the SBDS there at the main menu screen for approximately 5 minutes, then it'll go in and start that, and it'll look for that temperature change. So as the monitor goes on, and it looks for that temperature change of 122 degrees, if it gets above that, we can go ahead and log in on that, and then display that with a pop-up. And Tom, if you'll show that last pop-up, as the PVA internal temperature is above maximum limit, it'll tell you there that possible damage could occur and that you want to disconnect any SBDS to vehicle and SBDS to CFR connections. And then go ahead and turn off the SBDS and the PVA. Check for the PVA clog filters, and if you go into the user's guide, It'll give you the proper procedure for going through and checking the filters and showing you the proper cleaning procedure. And then at that point, you also want to check the vents for, make sure they're clear so you can get good filter air circulation through that PVA.
Independent reboot is a case where if you go on a road test and you have the PVA away from the cart, and for some reason the cart has to be rebooted or it goes down, you can still reboot the mainframe and then bring your PVA back to it and have the ability to upload those recordings that are in your PVA. In the past, with our current software, if you were on a road test and the PVA is out in the car with you and somebody has to restart SBDS, you've not had the option to come back and upload those recordings in your PVA. So if we made a road test and somebody's restarted this SBDS cart when my PVA's been away, when I come back to SBDS and it's been rebooted, I'll see an option screen or a toolbox screen that looks similar to the one that Tom's going to display for us. So Tom, if you could bring that option up for us. It looks similar to our old CFR menu screen. It gives you a powertrain, road test function, file manager, playback, and upload. So once we select the upload screen, the following screen is going to prompt us to connect the PVA, and we'll get time to display that so you can see it. It'll ask us to reconnect the SBDS PVA to the mainframe and touch continue. Now, once you touch continue, it's going to go through a normal upload procedure where it's going to take all the information out of the PVA and download it to the mainframe so you can later look at it in a graph or copy your recordings to a disk or wherever you may want to do. Now, that's a pretty big enhancement we had in the past. The whole issue here is once you've finished rebooting the cart independently of the PVA, you should go back, power down the system, go back, fire up the rocker switch, wait till you have the main welcome screen, and then turn the PVA on and wait for the PVA to tell you ready for use on the pendant. So it's very important if you've had to go through this independent reboot situation, once you've got your recordings uploaded to the mainframe, you're going to want to stop, reboot the cart, so you'll be able to use the SBDS for later testing throughout the day.
In the new 96 DI diesel, we've added some CFR capabilities where the customer flight recorder will work. The previous DI diesels, if you would have a hard fault, for example, map sensor, and you would look for a hard fault with a recording tool, all you would see is the failure mode's effects value. And you would not be able to really diagnose any problems that way. With the new 96, the data stream gives you live information, so when you go out and make a recording, you get to see the information that is available to you, and it'll help you better diagnose the vehicle. And while we're talking about that, we want to bring up some PIDs. We've had a little bit of discussion, and Tom, if you'll go ahead and bring that PID screen up. In the little bit of confusion we've heard from some of our P&S clubs, Top Gun clubs, is that the upper left-hand box there is our analog input values, and that's the one Tom just marked. The upper right-hand box is our digital input values, and that's the one Tom just marked. Then the middle category is our analog output values. In the right-hand box there in the middle is our digital outputs. And then down in the lower left-hand box, what we have there is anything left over. It's kind of a mixed bag trick, and you can put just about anything else that's left in there. And while we were talking about the customer flight recorder with the DI diesel, we wanted to show you that this update to the CFR started back in about January of '95, and this is the box that you're going to be looking for in your dealership, and this program runs till approximately September 1st, 1995. So if at that point you haven't had your CFR updated, they're going to go ahead and put an $80 fee to your dealership to get this update done. So please get it done by September 1st. Now, like I said, it started back in January, and if you receive this box, you're going to get about 10 days to respond and ship this back to Rotunda. And MPSI is the company that you ship it back to. If you haven't done that within 10 days, you're going to get a phone call to your SBDS coordinator, and at that point, they're going to look for another response to get this back into the mail. If, again, that hasn't happened, then you're going to get another call in about 10 days. If you still have not responded, the third will be a letter. After the third 10-day period, you're going to receive a letter. Okay, and the reason they're doing this, the June 95 software, when it starts, Every time you upload your CFR, you're going to go in and a pop-up window is going to come up on the screen, and it's going to tell you that your CFR has not been upgraded. Now, the whole purpose of this upgrade is to give a little more reliability to the link up of the CFR and to also help us better download the CFR for that purpose. Okay.
Recently, we've had some confusion on which GP port on the boom you should use when you're working with an EEC4 vehicle or an EEC5 vehicle. Well, to kind of clear those things up for you, we've dedicated GP1 port on the boom for EEC4 vehicles and GP3 on the boom for EEC5 vehicles. We'll get time to pull up a screen for me which shows a GP1 hookup, which we utilize the RP cable for an EEC4 vehicle. And in this case, we can do a soft test, a DCL hookup, anything that you might need to go into the DCL for. On an EEC4 vehicle, you're going to utilize the GP1 port. Okay? If you're working on an EEC5 vehicle, you're going to want to go in and utilize the GP3. So your GPC cable will be residing in the GP3 port on the boom, and you'll use that for all your EEC5, DCL, and soft tests. Now, one of the important things here is that if you want to go into a flash read program, you're going to have to be inserted into the GP3 port on the boom. If for some reason you're using your GPC cable in the GP1 port on the boom, you'll be unable to go in and do flash programming and things of those natures. Again, Tom was highlighting on the screen that we want to utilize GP3 for EEC5 vehicle applications. Okay, so just as a reminder, if any of you are using the GPC cable in the GP1 port on the boom, that's not a recommended procedure at SBDS. We're recommending that you leave the RP cable located in GP1 and the GPC cable in GP3. This also should help you, and you can get a little faster response and get your connections faster on SBDS.
Since January of '95 release, you probably noticed your labor operation codes are right next to your tool names, right in this area. And obviously now, for the June release, your labor operation code is over in this area. We did that, I guess, mainly because we were running out of room in this scroll box to put the operation numbers next to it, and plus it kind of jammed it up on the log file printout. So what we've done is gone ahead and moved it over to this area here, so it gives us the room to put the operation number in without jumbling it up on you, and that way, you know, it'll come out better looking on the log file printout as well.
Okay, we've gone into the body chassis electrical toolbox for this 1995 Continental. I've selected power seats, and I've also gone into the DCL display and selected histogram. Now, once I've gone to the histogram portion, now I can go into, and if we look at the screen real quick, Tom, I can go through and make my selections on whatever PIDs I want to look at. You'll see I've selected some driver's seat, lighting, or excuse me, the passenger front seat switch, and some various different inputs and outputs on the screen to record. Now I'm going to go ahead and press continue to initialize the DCL link. We'll give it a second to come up. And once it comes up, I'm going to have Mark over here. He's going to turn the switch for the power seat back and forth. And when he does that, you're going to see on the screen some different activity. We can get you to hit that switch, Mark. And you can see he's hitting some switches on and off. Mark, or Tom might be able to highlight those for you a little bit. And now I'm going to select capture. If you're working on your own, don't forget you can have the pendant in your hand and set inside the vehicle and use the capture feature. So again, just like in the powertrain toolbox when you're in DCL display, you're able to select histogram and play that back in a graph format. The same thing applies here with the body chassis electrical toolbox. So once we go through, we select histogram, we select the PIDs we want to look at, select capture, now we can play those things back. Now if I can get Tom to go back to my active SBDS screen, again, I'm moving that timer across the screen, and that's about 10 seconds of playback time. So that's my capture period there. Again, I have a graph feature available to me. So I'm going to select graph, and don't forget when we're dealing with the multiplex system, we're dealing with a digital input and output side of it. You're not going to see analog signals on your graph. You're simply going to see requests and statuses. So across the top of the screen, you'll see some various lines up here. You can also see on the bottom, power seat forward backward sensed. So we can see up on the screen where Mark was actually hitting the switch on and off, and it actually saw that on the multiplex link and gave us a response that that circuit's working. That's just one of the other features that you can use on the body chassis electrical system using histogram. and also using DCL display.
Okay, with the starting and charging system, Brian and I are going to go in and show you a starting and charging system test. Again, we've gotten some feedback from the PS clubs or P&S clubs and clubs like the Top Gun Club where technicians aren't using the starting and charging system test. So what we'd like to do is go in and show you some of the benefits of using starting and charging. And with that, we'll get into the starting and charging system test. We'll navigate out of Brian's BCE screen, and we'll go in and select starting and charging, touch continue, and we'll move on into the starting charging system test. And as the screens come up, we'll go through the hookup screens, and it's pretty important to follow the screens exactly the way they say. You want to start out with doing the obvious, the visual inspection. Touch continue. We want to hook up the battery. Then we want the GP2 cable hooked up to D243, and we don't want it connected at this point. And then we want the GP4 cable hooked up to F1 with any spark plug wire. So once you get that hookup, and we've previously done those hookups, you come into your turn the key on. So Brian, if you go ahead and turn the key on, and then turn the headlamps and all the other accessories off, and they want to know if the generator or battery warning lamp is on or flashing after 5 seconds. And yes, the light is on, so we answer that question yes. Okay, then we want to start the engine and place the D243 transducer near but not around the generator output wire. So we're going to go ahead and start the engine and place that transducer around the output wire. Okay, with that, then we'll touch continue. And then the charging system is going to go in and they're going to ask you to go ahead and now put the generator output wire towards the battery away from the alternator. So the arrows on the D243 probe point away from the alternator toward the battery. And with that, then we'll touch continue once we make that hookup. And now they want to know if the generator charging warning lamp is on or flashing. And at this point, yes, it is. So we do have a problem indicated with the charging system test. Okay, they want you to make sure the D243 is clamped securely around the generator output wire. We touch continue. And then you're going to go in and see the screen, the active screen for doing the test, as soon as the charging system stabilizes for approximately 5 seconds. Okay, now they want us to turn the headlamps on and the heater fan on to load the system, and then we'll touch continue, and we should be into the charging and starting system test. When we go ahead and raise the RPM up to 2,000 RPM, we're not going to talk during that period because it gets a little noisy, so as soon as we get done with this test, we'll come back and we'll explain the test results. Okay, as you can see on the charging system test results, we do have a problem with the charging system test, and we do have a couple of things that are available to us at this point. If you notice on the left-hand side of the screen, the pinpoint button there, that pinpoint button will only light up when, or blacken out when the pinpoint sees a problem. If we had no problems in this charging system test, the pinpoint button would be grayed out and you wouldn't be able to use it. Okay, so by selecting pinpoint, it's going to go ahead and bring us up into the, ask us to turn the headlamps off, and then it's going to bring us into a pinpoint test to do the charging starting system test. And then it gives you the exact examples here. You can see the Contour Mystique has a certain probe configuration, and then all the other vehicles has another probe configuration. And what we want to show you here is the little red roving probe lead has a continue button, and this continue button right here, the reset button, acts as a continue, so you don't have to move back and forth into the SBDS while you're doing the test, you can just go ahead and continue right from this button. And by touching that button, it allows the screen to go ahead and continue for you.
We had a lot of confusion, a lot of guys calling in asking about how to set up their OASIS phone numbers and their P&A codes and such. So I've gone into SBDS and selected the miscellaneous module, and I've gone into OASIS parameters. I'm going to go ahead and select that. And what you're going to see on your screen, if Tom can pull that up for me, on the left-hand side, you're going to see your active phone number. That's the number you call up when you call OASIS. Just below that, you're going to see your dealership's P&A code, and then below that, you're going to see a unit code. Well, to start off with, your unit code should be 01 if you have one cart. If you have more than one cart in your dealership, one should be 01, one should be 02. That's so that when we call up your cart, if you have a hardware problem or if you have a car issue, we can identify which cart we're dealing with. Now, if we can go back to the screen again, up in the top where it says phone number, we have a certain procedure for calling up and identifying which is the correct phone number for your OASIS logon. Now, we're always changing these phone numbers. We're always increasing the OASIS access points, and we'll get Tom to pull up an 800 number for us. And if you dial this number, you'll be connected to an MCI operator, and they'll have you insert your area code, your first 3 digits of your phone number, then be prepared with a pen and paper, because they're going to kick out option 1, which is your best choice for a phone number, and then immediately after that, they're going to kick out another number with the area code, which is your option number 2. So you're going to have 2 options, like an A and a B, that you can choose from for accessing OASIS. So these are one of the things you can do to verify you have the correct OASIS phone number online. Now, if we can go back to the screen one more time, Tom, take a look at our active screen on SBDS. You'll notice we have a T, a P, and a W. That's also caused some confusion out in the field. The T is for touch tone. So in many cases, you have a touch tone system in your dealership, you're going to want to utilize the T. If it's a pulse tone in the dealership, you're going to want to utilize the P. And in many cases, you have to dial a number like 9 or 7 or 8 to get out of the garage area to get an outside line. And in the past, many guys have used like a 9, comma, then your phone number, the comma being a small 1-second time pause. If it's a long time pause to wait to get an outside line, you might elect to use the W. The W tells SBDS, once I hit the first digit and then W, SBDS waits for a dial tone before it continues to dial. So I would recommend we go through, call up this number to double check, and we'll flash the number back on the screen for you. Get Tom to do that. If you'll call up, verify you have the correct OASIS phone number, and also verify your unit code. And if you have a problem with access time, you might want to look and see if you have a wait located on your dial net. Okay, so Tom, if you could display that one more time for us, everybody has that. Just for your reference, the next coming issue of the newsletter, we're also going to offer a more detailed explanation of this MCI logon to identify proper OASIS phone numbers.
We've also got some information back from our PS clubs and some of the Top Gun clubs for SBDS. A lot of the technicians are starting to shy away from using the EVTMs and the information module. And what we'd like to do is go in here and explain a little bit of that when we get all the way back to the information module. Is the only time you have to change a disc, and this is why a lot of technicians are shying away from it, is when you come up and ask for 92, 93, or 94 models, and if you're in the PCED manual or if you're in wiring schematics. If you go into the transmission charts, if you also would go into the emissions fact summary book or recall and owner notifications, TSBs, or the user's guide, all that information is on the disc, and you don't have to change and go into the wiring schematic disc to go in and get that information. So please don't shy away from the information if you can help it.